If current projections hold true, America is on the brink of a financial crisis, with the nation's ability to pay its bills at imminent risk. Not to be a preacher of doom, but it doesn't look very promising, with the nation's leaders standing off on a potential catastrophe. In this video, we'll assess the current issues, debt ceiling, and banking crisis. We'll also examine how it can affect the small business owner, and maybe a solution is in sight. Prior to commencing, please ensure to click the like and subscribe buttons to stay up to date with the newest content. This looming predicament arises from the U.S. debt ceiling, a legislative limit on the total amount of money that the federal government can borrow to fulfill its commitments. These obligations encompass a range of essential expenditures such as federal employee salaries, military funding, Social Security benefits, and the interest on the national debt. At present, the debt ceiling caps borrowing at approximately $31.4 trillion US dollars. The ceiling is not permanent, however, as Congress routinely votes to either raise or suspend it, enabling the federal government to increase its borrowing as necessary. This boundary was surpassed in January of this year, prompting the Treasury Department to enact extraordinary measures to ensure that the government maintains sufficient liquidity to meet its obligations. Historically, the debt ceiling has been raised by Congress without fail, often regarded as a mere formality. Yet, as the political divide between Democrats and Republicans continues to deepen, the debt ceiling has increasingly become a focal point of the political discord characterizing current U.S. politics. Although numerous meetings have been held between Congress and the White House to discuss the debt ceiling, no consensus has yet been reached on how to prevent the U.S. government from defaulting on its financial obligations. Consequently, the stark reality of America's impending inability to meet its financial commitments, if these projections come to fruition, has become a pressing concern. But what happens if the debt ceiling and banking crisis collide? In the face of the United States' mounting financial concerns, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has raised an alarm about the severe implications of a potential default, describing it as a trigger for an economic catastrophe. BBC's Natalie Sherman further emphasizes the enormity of this potential crisis. She highlights that an intentional default could send shockwaves through the financial system, where an astounding $500 billion worth of U.S. debt changes hands daily. If such a financial upheaval were to occur, its impact would be global, creating significant obstacles to the ongoing post-COVID-19 economic recovery. Likewise, the international credibility of the U.S., as one of the world's leading economies, would suffer a substantial blow in the event of a default. This could precipitate a downgrade in its credit rating, leading to increased borrowing costs and subsequent fiscal challenges. The present situation is further compounded by an existing banking crisis which reared its head in March with the surprising collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank, SVB. This incident has stoked concerns over the stability of mid-size U.S. banks. Since the SVB's downfall, the early days of May witnessed U.S. regulators seizing the First Republic Bank, FRB, following which most of its assets and deposits were sold to the country's largest bank, J.P. Morgan Chase. The months of March and April were marked by three of the four largest bank failures in U.S. history, namely those of SVB, FRB, and Signature Bank. These collapses, despite reassurances from U.S. financial regulators about the resilience and soundness of the banking system, have significantly undermined investor confidence, particularly in some regional U.S. banks. This was further evidenced on May 4th when the shares of two regional banks, PacWest Bancorp and Western Alliance, plummeted by 51% and 39% respectively. Moreover, the collapse of Credit Suisse in Switzerland in March added to the apprehension in global financial markets. Renowned for banking secrecy and stability, Switzerland's financial standing was challenged by Credit Suisse's downfall. This event served as a stark reminder to financial sector regulators worldwide of the potential for widespread financial turmoil and the necessity for continuous vigilance. Given these circumstances, it is difficult to envision a more inopportune moment for a U.S. debt default. The fallout from a U.S. default could potentially cripple the global financial system. Historically, global crises tend to disproportionately affect smaller and more vulnerable nations, leaving them to face the most severe repercussions and a slower recovery process. As such, it is crucial that all possible measures are taken to avert this looming financial crisis. So, what do the ongoing debt ceiling negotiations mean to small and medium businesses? The ongoing debt ceiling negotiations have significant implications for small and medium businesses, SMBs, particularly those still awaiting their employee retention credit. The Employee Retention Credit, ERC, is a government initiative designed to incentivize employers to maintain their staff levels during economically challenging times. It does so by offering tax credits, which businesses can then apply against their payroll tax liability. For many SMBs, these credits are essential lifelines that can amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars, making a substantial difference in their financial health. Currently, there is a significant backlog in processing these claims at the IRS, with over 1 million filings still pending. The prolonged delay is causing considerable strain on SMBs that are reliant on these funds to meet operational costs. SMBs function on relatively tight margins, so delays in receiving these credits can significantly impact their cash flow, potentially to the point of endangering their viability. In the event the U.S. fails to raise the debt ceiling, the federal government could run out of money, leading to additional delays in these payments. This would further exacerbate the financial stress on SMBs. The absence of these vital funds may hamper their ability to retain current staff, recruit new employees, and even maintain day-to-day operations. Depending on the length and severity of such a delay, some businesses could face the severe consequence of shutting their doors permanently. Again, the uncertainty surrounding the debt ceiling negotiations itself can be harmful. Businesses thrive on stability and predictability, allowing them to plan effectively for the future. The uncertainty surrounding these negotiations and the potential impact on the ERC payments might cause businesses to delay investments, hold off on hiring, or implement other cautionary measures that could slow economic recovery. Overall, the ongoing debt ceiling negotiations directly influence the financial stability and future growth of small and medium businesses in the U.S., making it a matter of critical importance to this sector. How are the negotiations going right now? The current state of negotiations presents a complex landscape of political maneuvering and strategic posturing. While it might seem straightforward to arrive at a deal on the surface, there are numerous factors at play that add layers of complexity to the process. One of the central issues is the extensive pressure that Congress is facing from a variety of interest groups, each with their own unique demands and expectations. These groups represent diverse constituencies, and each member of Congress must prove to their base that they are advocating for their interests. This often leads to a tug-of-war dynamic in the negotiations, with lawmakers fighting tooth and nail for their specific causes, further complicating the prospect of a swift resolution. Moreover, the current political climate within Congress adds another element of challenge. The White House must navigate these treacherous waters carefully, understanding that the Republicans, despite being a major party, don't have a firm grasp on the steering wheel. This lack of control could be attributed to the fractured nature of the Republican Party, with its various factions and disparate ideologies, which makes it difficult for them to present a unified front and negotiate as a cohesive unit. This predicament escalates the potential risk of a game of chicken, a scenario wherein each side waits for the other to back down first. In such a high-stakes situation, both parties might be willing to risk the adverse consequences of not reaching a deal in the hope that the other side will capitulate first. Given these complexities, the negotiation process can seem daunting, but it is certainly not an insurmountable task. It requires careful diplomacy, patience, and a willingness to compromise. Achieving a consensus will depend on the capacity of the involved parties to find common ground and work towards a solution that balances the interests of the various factions while still addressing the urgent financial issues at hand. Can bank executives and members of the business community put pressure on Congress and the White House to come to a deal? Bank executives and business leaders can certainly exert influence on political decision-making, as their advice is often sought due to their financial expertise and understanding of market implications. However, their impact has its limitations. For instance, when a prominent figure like Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, communicates with the House Speaker, his counsel is taken into consideration, but it doesn't directly translate into votes in the House of Representatives. The Speaker's challenge lies in securing agreement from a majority in his caucus, who may have diverging opinions. Likewise, while the White House could request input from finance CEOs, their sway over lawmakers is limited. And ultimately, it's the elected representatives who make the decisions. So there you have it. There's a huge potential for chaos if the debt ceiling is not raised and it collides with the current banking crisis. I hope the political class can end their standoffs